Alright, kidlights, another episode of Roxbury Science. Mr. Marks coming to you with just a real simple little discussion. It's kind of social studies and science at the same time. This thing I was getting feed out of the other day to grind feed for the pigs. This is known as, well, it's a grain storage bin. But this little thing here, it's not a very big one. It actually has a little bit of history behind it. Back in the early 60s, it was the same thing goes on now as it did back then. As a lot of times there's overproduction of grain and the prices go down, and so this is known as a Kennedy bin. And what they mean by a Kennedy bin is that in the early 60s, the Kennedy administration, he gave really low interest loans to any farmer that needed or wanted to store grain, because if they took grain off the market, it would actually help them bring the price up. So this bin was built somewhere near Verona in the early 60s, 1962, whatever, during his presidency. Anyway, my dad ended up buying the darn thing probably about 8 years later and moving it to the home place over there. And dang it, it's windy. And anyway, it sat idle for the last 10 years. And obviously I looked at the darn thing and I'm like, hey, I got my little antique combine up there that I combined with. I need to put my grain somewhere. So I moved it. I put it on a couple of logs and dragged it with a big tractor and brought it over and put it on a cement foundation. And God, when we were kids, we used to have to shovel this thing empty. God, did it suck. It was terrible. As you get older, work smarter, not harder. And so what I knew existed out there, every farm has them, is you have what they call a false floor. So all the way around this thing, what I put in on top of my cement base here, this cement base, there's a ring of bolts all the way around here. Those ring of bolts are the height of a floor inside that's perforated and has all kinds of holes in it. And so with those holes, what'll happen is that you can dry your grain a little bit, whatever else. And I thought, well, what the heck? I know there's a big movement out there on bin drying your grain, because most grain, if you don't know this, kids, almost all corn that's harvested in the U.S. has to be dried with natural gas. And what they do with that is they blow in millions and millions of gallons of gas and, you know, burn it. It smells like popcorn because they're heating the corn and going from probably like 22% down to 15% moisture, so it stores without getting any mold growth. It's expensive, you know, they charge you whatever to do it. Hey, and I wanted to reduce my carbon footprint and try not to be in a carbon sink little operation. So I thought, hey, I know there's a movement out there to actually air dry your corn in the bin. So that's what I've been doing the last 4 or 5 years, is I bought this this fan right here. It's a regular pressure fan. That this fan blows air underneath that floor, and those perforated holes blow the air up through the corn. Now, it's normally not meant to dry the corn, but if you work with it right, there's all kinds of data tables and everything to follow. And there is actually, the whole idea is there has to be a certain cubic foot per minute flow of air going through for a bin this size, and to calculate that all out. And the idea is that, well, it blows a whole heck of a lot of air through the corn and dries it down to a certain point. Now, last fall, it was so nasty out, I couldn't dry it very well. So there's a method of actually going on a really cold morning, like at 5 degrees, and run the darn thing for, well, forever, a couple of days or whatever at 5 degrees. And what it does is it kind of chills the corn until about now, when it's going to be nice and 70 for the next couple of days here, and dry air. This is, tomorrow's the 1st of May. I'm going to run this darn thing and try and dry it the rest of the way. It should have been run about a month ago, but I had a good stretch of weather. So what I need to do is go in there and shovel it flat and let the fan blow air up through. Okay? So what I'm going to do, old man River here is, God, I hope I don't get a heart attack doing this. I'm going to turn on the fan, climb up there, and hopefully make this work. So I'd say call 911 if the video stops or lay flat down, but I'll allow them to be dead by the time they get here. So, all right, the fan's kicking in. Obviously a huge amount of air going in. And oh Lord. And you get here, oh, it's kind of cool. You obviously can't see it, but there is a huge amount of air coming out through this opening right here. And that air is coming up through the corn. And if I go inside, oh God, I'm too old for this. Oh Lord. Okay, I gotta do it. My kid, when they were little, they used to do this thing where they go bin jumping at friends' houses. You gotta go in here, and when the corn's really deep, you gotta, oh, okay, that was kind of cool. All right, so anyway, what I'm gonna do, and I got quite a bit of trash in here. Oh, and I can feel the air. It's really cool. If I put my hand over this, I can feel air coming up. There's probably about 8 feet of corn in here, and that corn has air going past every last little cubic inch, and it's really a decent breeze coming up through. It's kind of cool. So I'll shovel this flat. You can see I've been feeding out of here to feed my animals. I'm going to shovel this flat, and eventually, after about a 5-day running of the fan with no gas burning, I should end up with nice dry corn. Now again, when I talked about work smarter, not harder, on top of having perforated floor, I went down to Illinois to get all this stuff. These guys are selling it because nobody uses stuff this small anymore. I found that thing. And that is a sweep auger that I custom built, that this is the only time I ever got a shovel. Because I shoveled my entire life when I was younger, when I was your age. God, I don't ever want to shovel again. This is the extent of my shoveling. This bin is emptied out completely 100% by that auger, and I don't have to shovel anything. So anyway, yeah, the idea is, like I said, I just got to go around, and oh yeah, this is funsy. You just shovel, 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 and just flatten it out. And it's going to take me a while, and like I said, hopefully I don't lay here. I don't know, my wife wouldn't find out for days probably, or when she called me for dinner. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of how it works. It's kind of cool. Little piece of history and some really good songs. Oh, and the last thing with this one, it's really, really connected to temperature and moisture. What you have to do is you're never supposed to run these fans below 40 degrees outside. Because as we know from field ecology, what happens when air cools? Okay? The moisture condenses, or it doesn't hold much moisture, and so it just will condense in a spot in the bin. And so what happens is that you want dry, warm air, because it will absorb the moisture and blow it all the way through. So they always say never run these below 40 unless you're going to chill it, because above 40, it will actually grab the moisture and pull it out. So it's kind of cool, a little bit of, like I said, atmospheric science there too. All right, hopefully this makes sense, and hopefully I don't croak. Later.